You're listening to COB Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan.
Hey, hello everybody. Hi Sharon.
Hey Sudeep, how are you?
I am good. How are you, Sharon?
All good as always.
Excellent. So it is my turn today to put
hmm
you on a spot, or
Yes,
rather, let me euphemistically say to put you under spotlight.
fair enough.
Tell us, Sharon, what are we going to talk about today?
Uh, I think we don't talk about too much when it's my turn to present my case. It's usually a rant, so not too different this time. It's a rant once again.
Hmm.
So let me start with the question though today.
Hmm.
Do you believe in horoscopes?
No.
Well, how come? Do you not believe the month you're born in can define your personality?
No, I don't.
How about the year you're born in defining your personality?
No, again, no.
But don't we all do that as marketers? As in, don't we all claim to do that as marketers?
Do we?
Yeah, of course we do.
Okay.
With
And
every generation that we talk about,
uh-huh.
it's about Gen Zs, millennials, Gen Xs, baby boomers. We we classify generations of people as
Hmm.
one cohort,
Hmm.
and we blame everything we do
Hmm.
on the farthest generation from us, whether
Hmm.
be it younger or older, and
Hmm.
say that's how the market's going today.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, I see your point where you're going. So from Linda Goodman, you've come to millennials and Gen Z. Okay, fair. So today's rant, if
Yep.
you permit me, is about gross generalization. If I can decipher it.
Yes.
So then, my friend, you have a formidable opponent in the form of an entire industry where marketing serves, and that's talking about marketing to Gen Z today.
Absolutely. That's exactly what got me started.
Hmm.
Because my client last week went on and on about how Gen Zs are the future and how she wants to market to the Gen Zs. And I was like, okay, we're moving from millennials to Gen Z. So let's look up what these Gen Zs stand for.
Hmm.
And I looked up quite a few websites
Hmm.
and it all sounded so familiar.
Hmm.
And then I realized these are the same terms used to define the millennials.
Oh, okay.
And then I went digging a little more. Then I found Britannica used
Hmm.
the same words
Hmm.
to define Gen X, that is the MTV generation of the 80s and 90s.
Oh, okay.
And these are pretty much the same term, maybe grammatically different, but
Ah.
that's how each generation is being defined.
Okay.
And nobody has a clear indication of which year falls into this, which year does not fall into this. It's roughly 80s and 90s become your Gen X's,
Hmm.
mid, or some people say 80s to the 90s become your millennials,
Hmm.
and the Gen X. So it's roughly going after the population, say 18 to 25, 26 is roughly who they're talking about in general.
Hmm.
They are saying the same things.
Hmm.
The millennial is not very different from the Gen Z, as the
Hmm.
Gen Z is not even very different from the Gen X.
Hmm. Okay. So if we talk about millennials and Gen Z today,
Mhm.
millennials are older than Gen Z and possibly one generation older to them.
Yes,
But what you're saying is they are not very different from each other.
not at all.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because, see,
Yeah.
the terms that they use are they are children of divorce.
Hmm.
They are more tech savvy than the previous generation.
Hmm.
They are more opinionated than the previous generation.
Hmm.
They seek work life balance. They prioritize work life balance more than the
Hmm.
previous generation.
Hmm.
And the previous generation still hasn't managed to get their work life balance.
Hmm.
So it is
Okay.
all the youngsters who
Hmm.
want the same thing.
Hmm.
As they grow older, start using the same terms to define the people who follow them. This goes back to Socrates, right? Who said, today's youth are spoiled and they're not up for change and they're not interested in society. They're so self indulgent.
Hmm.
You go back to that, it's still the same thing that we're talking about.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it almost becomes, what do you say, a shortcut for marketers. So it's what I call lazy marketing, because we like to put people in groups, right?
Yeah.
And putting them as millennials or Gen Zs just makes our life so much simpler, and we can justify anything we want.
Hmm.
So if you're jealous about people younger than us, we
Hmm.
blame them for it. If
Hmm.
they are more successful than us, we blame them for it.
Hmm.
If they're not very successful than us, we
Hmm.
still blame them for it, because they're doing everything that we wanted to do.
Ha.
And we see them from a standpoint of, say, a midlife crisis. It is the people going through midlife crisis who coined these damn terms of millennials,
Okay.
of Gen Zs. It's a whole lot of bull.
Okay. I can sense a lot of angst despite sitting many kilometers from you. So let me cool you down by trying to take the topic slightly away from midlife and Gen Z's. Uh, so if you think about the process of marketing, and in chapter
Hmm.
4 of Kotler, he talks about STP, segmentation, targeting, positioning.
Right,
The very essence of segmentation is to divide the population into certain kind of cohorts.
right,
Yeah. And the cohorts are based on some kind of generalization about their behavior, wants, needs, etc.
right.
Yeah. So aren't what you saying contradict the core principle of segmentation, or are you hinting at something else?
I am not looking to contradict segmentation at all. In fact, I'm looking to push the case for segmentation further.
Uh-huh.
Because let's take technology, for example, right?
Yeah.
Earlier, looking at technology as the source point of information
Mm-hmm.
and information driving points of view.
Hmm.
Now, earlier we had a single source of information, which was, could be limited TV channels or just one TV channel or radio before that.
Hmm.
And people's points of view weren't too divergent.
Okay.
And today, with the kind of technology people consume and the kind of information people consume is so diverse. In
Hmm.
fact, that's what's going on in the US. Every side has got an equal chance to tell you their story.
Hmm.
And the algorithm then takes care of it for what you want and what you don't want. But there are such differing points of view.
Yeah.
And people have formed different points of view. And it does not go just by age bracketing.
Hmm.
What this age bracketing does, which is the millennial and Gen Z classification does, is
Hmm.
it homogenizes people by the age group.
Okay.
We've gone from a point of, say, SEC classification itself is a very American phenomenon.
Yeah.
And we've been using NCCS, and even that's not very popular, by the way. People are just
Hmm.
comfortable saying SEC.
Yeah.
But NCCS is a lot more prudent for India. It takes a little more things into account, looking at joint families together.
Hmm.
So that is a little better, but
Hmm.
that's still very demographic classification.
Hmm.
And people having different points of view today
Hmm.
behave in very different ways. And people
Hmm.
are driven by the way they think.
Hmm.
And just talking to all people in the same segment, even talking to older millennials, say 40 to 50, in the same
Hmm.
way, it still doesn't make sense because each one's got such differing points of view.
Hmm.
And while we are classifying people, going back to the segmentation point, yes, age could be a factor,
Hmm.
but that is very, very esoteric. It's too top level for me,
Hmm.
for anybody
Hmm.
for that matter. You
Hmm.
need
Hmm.
to go deeper,
Hmm.
because in the age of mass marketing, it probably did well.
Hmm.
Today, with so much competition going after the same kind of consumers,
Hmm.
everybody's got to form their own niche. And just saying I'm going after a millennial or a Gen Z just does
Hmm.
not cut it. You
Hmm.
have to prioritize your story
Hmm.
and how your story fits into their narrative and
Hmm.
their thinking. And that
Hmm.
pretty much is what we traditionally call the insight.
Hmm. 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 Okay. So I see your point. What you're saying is you are against age based segmentation only. While segmentation is right, you need to find your own vectors of segmentation rather than following a set pattern of age.
Yes, and not just. Uh, okay, let me expand that a little bit. It's not just age; it's also the circumstances of people that they grow up in,
Hmm.
circumstances that they live in.
Hmm.
So, for somebody living in Bombay or
Hmm.
Mumbai, or
Hmm.
versus somebody living in a Madurai,
Hmm.
their attitudes are going to be so different.
Yeah.
Just let's take, for example, mm, denim.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
person in Madurai going for a denim jeans would probably be going for the first or the second ever pair. And they are
Yeah.
not very brand conscious. They rather just have any denim as long as it's blue and pick it up from the nearby big bazaar. And this does not mean they're a value shopper.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
shopper in Mumbai might insist on certain brands just because of them being aware of certain brands and why they what the jeans means to them. It may not mean a fashion statement to them, and they could be the same age, they could even have the same education,
Yeah.
but the circumstances they grow up in is so different.
Hmm.
So looking at what people believe in, looking at who prescribes to your ideology or your thinking or your narrative becomes very imperative to understand who you're talking to. And therefore, this is not ignoring segmentation, but going a way deeper into segmentation.
Hmm. Hmm. Fair. Fair. No, I see your point now. You're making a finer nuance about what kind of segmentation should marketeers be doing rather
Right.
than blindly following some boxed segmentations developed by generalization. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely. And that's why we have regional brands.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in India, we have so many regional brands ruling the roost. Why regional brands? Look at Nestle in Kerala.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just because of the Gulf influence,
Hmm.
Kerala has for long been a stronghold of Nestle.
Correct.
Versus, and they're not very different from what we are. They
Yeah.
have similar education. It's
Hmm.
only because of their exposure to Gulf and imported goods from the Gulf that their behavior is so different.
Correct.
So they really wouldn't fall under a millennial or Gen Z classification and fulfill your purpose at all as a marketer.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So
Sure.
that is my rant on millennials and Gen Zs being a gross generalization.
You're listening to Cobb, Conversations on the Business of Brands. Your hosts are Sudeep Chawla, marketing practitioner, business leader, and educator to advertising and marketing professionals, and Sharavana Raghavan of Vitril Innovations, consultants to consumer facing brands and businesses. For more information, go to copcast.net. If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by telling your friends and rating us.
Okay. Okay. Fair. Fair. So fair. That sounds fair. Now tell me practically, as a
Mhm.
marketer, what you're advising me to do is
Mhm.
to segment the cohorts attitudinally.
Yes.
Yeah. Because the circumstances in which they grew up shapes their
Mhm.
attitude and outlook towards life today.
Right.
Now you're asking me to segment them attitudinally. Don't you think that makes segmentation can still be done? You might even
Mhm.
position your product properly. Don't you
Mhm.
think that makes targeting very difficult?
It does. It
Mm-hmm.
does. And therefore, you cannot have a one size fits all approach.
Hmm.
And there are different times of people's life that you might matter and not matter. It is not
Hmm.
just about their attitudes, it is about attitudes in certain stages of people's lives also.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
this is what I call life stage disruptors.
Hmm.
So, there's the theory is that it's always easy, not easy, it's easier to
Hmm.
get into the consumer's life as the first than
Hmm.
to displace an existing brand in the consumer's life,
Okay.
because you need to replace something that's already there.
Hmm.
Simple, something like a Kinder Joy.
Hmm.
So you and I were at Cadbury when Kinder Joy came in and kind of just blew the top off marketing to kids.
Hmm.
And no matter what we did with gems, Kinder Joy had already occupied the toy space with chocolate,
Hmm. Hmm.
and dislodging them becomes difficult. Similarly with this one, right? Patanjali.
Hmm.
So Ayurvedic toothpaste had existed forever.
Hmm.
Vico was around for the longest time.
Hmm.
But Patanjali captured the nation's imagination
Hmm.
on being the Sattvic brand.
Hmm. Yeah.
And therefore, they grew so fast,
Hmm.
and they created a subcategory in every category they played. And they
Hmm.
ended up owning it because they were there in that moment.
Hmm.
So, so it's also about what do you say when people want something and you're being available at that point. So, yeah, I think in Seth Godin's book, This is Marketing, he talks about pattern match and pattern disrupt.
Mhm.
So, a pattern match is basically looking at what's going on in the category and
Hmm.
offering an additional choice to the consumer.
Hmm.
There's not too much effort on the research side.
Hmm.
You're basically it's a me too operation,
Hmm.
and you hope that your share of voice, if you can master it, will help you get a share of market.
Hmm.
But pattern disrupt is a jolt to the consumer.
Hmm.
You catch them with an insight,
Yeah.
and then it is about creating the tension and then diffusing the tension in
Hmm.
consumers' life.
Hmm. Hmm.
And sometimes this tension occurs naturally in their life also. You
Hmm.
don't, the brand doesn't need to create it. And
Hmm.
that is why life stage transitions are a great place for brands to enter.
Hmm.
So we look at birth, death, weddings, moving cities. So these are very high stress environments for people.
Hmm.
And brands that offer holistic solutions, or any brand that comes into the mix at that time,
Hmm.
is never really challenged on merit. It is about, okay, you're going to take care of it, take care of it. That's it.
Hmm.
And there are so many brands that have thrived just because of this life stage transition.
Hmm.
Even look at smaller ones, right?
Hmm.
Look at your vacation centric brands, your back to school, your festival campaigns that are run for existing brands.
Hmm.
So, because these are all disruptions in people's daily lives,
Hmm.
and that becomes an attitude change for the consumer, and they're
Hmm.
looking for something new,
Hmm.
and therefore you manage to get into the mix.
Okay. So let me just understand as well as summarize.
Hmm.
What you're saying is that there are uh, life stage disrupting events which are anyways happening with every target consumer.
Yes.
So kids growing up, getting into college, collegiates getting into jobs, people moving into new houses, getting a newborn into their lives, etc., etc.
Right.
And those disruptors become an opportunity for brands because people are open to looking at new choices and are therefore looking at solutions. Now, whoever provides those solutions in a more comprehensive and a more insightful manner might win the game there.
Most of the time, it's not even a fair competition.
Hmm.
It's just because you're there, just because you're placed there. They're not even evaluated on merit. It's just accessibility drives. For example, let's take the case of bereavement.
Hmm.
You aren't necessarily shortlisting the kind of agencies you want to use or kind of brands you want to use.
Yeah.
Anybody's used it, a reference comes in, or somebody, a hospital lets them know, and they
Hmm.
won't take care of it. That's it. You don't question. You don't even bargain.
Yeah. You shop around. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't shop around exactly.
Yeah.
So that is the disruption in people's lives, and this disruption happens in life. It
Hmm.
happens in a calendar year,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
this drives attitudinal changes with people.
No, fair. I wouldn't. Uh, I wouldn't go to the sense of saying calling it an unfair game
Hmm.
because excess or word of mouth, etc., are all drivers which are known to the category,
Right.
and therefore, if a player is able to capitalize on any of these, they must have done something right.
Right.
Yeah. Seldom seldom we find cases where serendipity helps you tremendously. Yeah, usually it is little bit of serendipity followed by realization and a lot of hard work.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So therefore, we started by saying that we don't like uh, marketeers following age-based segmentation blindly,
Right.
because people have different circumstances through which they are going growing up.
Hmm.
Now you're making a case for the fact that if you have to look at ages, might as well look at life stage and look at life stage disruption events.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, fair. So this is an alternative that you're suggesting to people. Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sharon.
No, I was just saying these are just the speed bumps where people need solutions for. And
Mm,
if you can start thinking on those angles, that's when you discover your insights to build your brand on.
sure, sure. And it is one of the options.
Yep.
We are not suggesting that this is the only option. There are, you know, thousands of other ways of segmenting, targeting, and positioning your brands.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So coming back to your point, Sharon, would you want to talk about couple of brands who have got this right, which kind of
Yeah.
goes back to your point?
Yeah. So what we spoke of Patanjali, right?
Patanjali. Yeah. Yeah.
Patanjali did something that they had no product differentiation whatsoever. And they kind of timed the market to there was this big national, what is it, drive of Indianness coming through, of
Mm,
wanting to be Indian, spiritual, Hindutva.
mm,
Even I prefer to use the word Sattvic, is what they kept talking about.
mm,
And they may or may not be fulfilling the promise.
mm,
But primarily, it is for those who believed
mm.
that the Indian solution was better than what the Western brands were offering,
Yeah.
and that is who Patanjali served. You or I may not have bought a Patanjali,
Mm,
but they captured the moment, they captured the thought process, and today they exist for people who believe in the narrative that something branded as Patanjali is desi. It's almost even patriotic to buy a brand like Patanjali.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
that is a mindset. They are not going after uh, millennials or Gen Zs. They went after a certain thought process, a belief.
Mm,
It's a belief by definition. It doesn't have to be rational or even factual. It's just a belief.
mm,
The other example that comes to mind is fog.
mm-hmm,
Fog was what fog did was when every deodorant brand said who is the deodorant user, male deodorant user. It
mm,
is the youngster, 18 to 25 are the core. They're
mm-hmm.
doing it because they want to chase girls, and their biggest insight is that boys of this age only want girls, and that's what Axe was doing.
Yeah.
Every other brand in the category was doing just that,
Mm,
and they completely missed the bus on a certain segment of the audience actually wanting more than that.
mm,
Basically, the deodorant having to last long,
yeah.
and they had to tell a story saying that it's not gas. This gives you long lasting
Mm,
because this is just body perfume is what they call it today. I think
mm,
I'm not sure if they still deodorant, but they did not generalize. They went after the insight of the consumer who's
mm,
looking more than to just chase girls and offer a
mm,
functional benefit.
mm,
This comes from non-generalization, because when you generalize, you become the pattern matcher. You
mm,
end up becoming a me too brand, and you start claiming to be facing the problems that the entire category is facing.
mm,
Going after a niche of audience, going after attitudinal behaviors, going after a deeper segmentation, basically. That's what it comes down to. And
mm,
saying, where do I fit into the consumer's life? What do they believe in? And who are my exact consumers? What is the belief system I'm buying into? What is my cult that I can build around my brand?
mm,
And that cracks it for me.
mm. So therefore, even if a brand decides to go after Gen Z or millennials, etc., our advice to them is that go after them, but don't believe in preconceived notions about them. Get to know them with great proximity, and then do a deeper segmentation, find a relevant insight, and then go after them with that kind of positioning of your brand.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, fair, fair. Those sound like very fair examples. Great. I think, Sharon, it started off like a rant, But honestly, I think it is great amount of wisdom that you're imparting to all of us today, and it's certainly a reminder to all of us to just pull back from this mindless generalization that you see anywhere when you look around in press, or when you look around in any of the marketing articles, etc. And where you started from, you said that all generations behave the same when they are of certain age. Yeah.
Right.
And all the statements that we have read about them are all relative. Yeah, they are always smarter than the previous generation, they are always more tech savvy, they're little less sincere, little less faithful, etc., etc. So you're saying generally every generation at a certain age is described the same with reference to a previous generation to theirs.
And it may or may not be true. It is the
Yeah,
previous generation that's giving them the name.
correct, correct. So it is always relative,
Yeah.
and that's how people have seen it. And therefore, then you secondly made a point that your circumstances of where you live, where you grew up, and your living conditions, etc., is a far greater say than what age you are, which age bracket do you belong to. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you said that therefore, if one is to look at ages, an excellent point in time to make an impact is those life stage disruptor
Right.
events, where people are looking for options, and brands have an excellent opportunity to create that disruption. Yeah.
Yes.
And therefore, finally, you said that life stage disruption or not, what marketers should go after is psychological, attitudinal kind of segmentation, which necessitates deeper understanding of the target segment,
Yes.
regardless of whichever age group you are going after. And if you do that, you should be able to create a success story of the like of Patanjali or Fog or many other brands who've really made it big by making sure that they understood their consumer much better than any other category player, and then they were able to use it to their advantage.
Precisely.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. I think that's a lot of wisdom coming our way. Thank you very much for this, Sharon.
Thank you so much, Sudeep.
Yeah, I hope you feel lighter after every all you have thrown out all the rage.
We
Excellent,
good.
excellent. So on that note, thank you very much and see you soon, Sharon.
Thank you so much, Sudeep. See you around. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to COB Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's COBBCAST.net.